Hello everyone, good evening. How are you doing? Is all right? It's been a while since I've done a proper live video, isn't it? Seems that I'm doing less and less because I'm always at the matches, home and away, and it's always the rest of the lads. But good to have your company. Get your interaction in the live chat. We'll have a look at what you guys are saying. But also, if you're brave enough to come on and have a chat with me about today's ongoings, please jump on board. There's a link in the top of the description. I'd love to see you guys come on, have your say, and see what you feel about the whole thing today. Where does it leave Newcastle United? We're going to talk about, we've got like a brief rundown of a summary of what happened today, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail from both sides, what each other side has said today. But welcome to a live recap of the CAT case. If you are watching live, if you can smash that like, that would be wonderful. And like I said before, if you do fancy popping on, check the link in the live chat. And also our YouTube members have so far got 10 exclusive videos in September, which no one else can see except for members. So there's a join button for more info if you want to have a look. Right, let's jump straight to the comments before we crack on with today's show. Ben, did we win? That is the golden question. Some fans think we have. Some fans don't think we have. I'm still in the middle. I'll tell you why in a minute. Senji, who's gone on to say it's our league, we can do what we want as members. Someone throws a pie. Liam's gone on to say we are winning this and getting our club back. Fingers crossed. Hello, Mike. I hope you're doing well, mate. We're still waiting on a verdict on a CAT case to see if it goes our way or not, which we'll do come to in a second. Premier League will always be corrupt. Qatar owns it, says a lot. We can only dream, says Kevin as well. Powers that be. Powers that don't want Newcastle becoming a contender, it's all a setup, says Pablo as well. Liam's gone on to say it's embarrassing for the Premier League have threatened to kick us out in the league. So if you are watching for the first time, a lot of the people are saying in the comments, you'll probably be learning off them what has been said. Bruce to walk, Chronicle article thinks so, says Steve. I don't think he will. Bruce has said that he won't walk. I think we need to sack him. But the best time to do it for me personally would be after the Wolves game, because then you've got the international break if the club was to do it. Please. Tom's going to say, I don't think arbitration will go ahead on January the 3rd, like Adam Lewis, Premier League's QC, said. January the 1st falls on a Saturday, so the bank holiday carries over to Monday the 3rd. That's a good shout. Very good shout. That's a couple of days after the horrible trip to Southampton on New Year's Day. Possibly our first win of the year, says Jay in Atlanta. Jay, get yourself on, mate. You haven't been on for a while. And I'm so confused what's going on. Toon, love the channel. Thank you very much, Will. And powerful replacement for Stevie. Right, we'll want to just jump on and do a brief summary of what's gone on today. So shall we begin with the arbitration? So we'll have a look at that for you first. Right, so the arbitration has been set. You might have just heard that there. It is going to be January the 3rd, which is a Monday. And I don't know if that falls on a bank holiday like one of the lads just said in the comments, but this is taken from the Chronicle snippets, and this is from them, and they said that the Premier League's case against the anti-competition claim hinged upon three reasons today. The first was obviously the arbitration proceedings, which we now know are listed for January the 3rd. The second today was also how these proceedings will make this claim either unnecessary or impossible. And whilst the third has been dismissed of any talk of any damages or losses for St. James's Holdings, which is, of course, Mike Ashley's company, who own Newcastle United, which we will come to very, very shortly. So that was one of the brief summaries. And, of course, we'll move on to the second part, which is Daniel Joel, who was representing St. James's Holdings. Now, Nick DeMarco was representing Newcastle United. So not to get confused, St. James's Holdings was separate in today's court case. So he's accepted that there is an overlap between the two cases, which is the arbitration and, of course, the CAT case today, but insists the anti-competition claim is for the company, which is St. James's Holdings, rather than Newcastle United. So if you're already getting confused, I don't blame you, because there was two people from Newcastle. I say two people from Newcastle. Nick DeMarco was representing Newcastle United, and then we had somebody representing St. James's Holding in the Premier League as well. And of course, the judge. Right, okay. So the next claim was about BN Sports. Now we've all, Richard Keys gets on our wick with some of the daft stuff that he says on social media. We find it great. We know all of that. But BN Sports didn't want the takeover to go through. Mr. Jowl revealed that BN Sports were in negotiations over a new 3-year rights deal with the Premier League at the time of the breakdown of the takeover, and cited the alleged influence as well of that of major rival clubs. So what does that mean? So basically, BN Sports didn't want the Saudis coming in because the Qatar versus Saudis, they were rivals. You've seen it. We've learned a lot of the past 12, 18 months, the conflict between the two countries, and it goes even further to some dodgy stuff, right? That's for a video for a whole another day. But what was interesting there was other Premier League clubs. Now, a lot of strong people, rumours, saying that it's Spurs and Liverpool are two of the clubs who are against this takeover, because you know that Newcastle would eventually climb that league table year after year, getting better players, improving the stadium, improving the training ground, youth development, and so on and so on. Better caliber manager, a bit like Manchester City, how they do. But obviously, FIFA fair play is a lot more stricter now than you kind of just have a billionaire coming in and change a club overnight. It will take a few years. So there's Premier League clubs who Newcastle United are saying, we'll wait a minute here because this club's stopping, this club doesn't want it, and for a takeover, and I might be wrong on this, I'm not an expert, but I might be wrong on this, and said I think you need 14 of 20 clubs to agree to something, like a change. I might be wrong on that with the takeover. Please do let me know. I'm not an expert. I'm not going to claim that I am as well. We'll just pause there and we'll have a look at what you're saying in the comments as well. Merseyside Magpie's gone out to say he's sick of getting his hopes up and definitely keeping things in line when it comes to takeovers. Yeah, I think we've learned that as a channel. We were live when we found out it was horrible. Liam's got to say the lawyers have just said we just need to keep the Saudis, which is basically the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, not to be direct on the takeover gets approved, which we will come to. Certain people said more likely to say Bruce walk to the chippy than walk out in the club. Brilliant, love it. I miss Bobby. Ragnar, man. Kevin Keegan was my era, mid-90s, 95, 96 season. That was my first season as a kid. Loved it. Les has gone on to say, it's good to see that finally, but slowly some of the mainstream press are beginning to say what's happening here. Yeah, that's starting to come out. Obviously, Sky coverage a lot of it today. And Joseph's gone on to say, I don't really know much about the Premier League. It looks like they embarrassed themselves as well, which will come out. Arbitration will take a week or two. So we should know that it happens when they take off sooner rather than expected. Elliot, another member. Hello, Elliot, lad. I hope you are doing well. Hope to see you some away games, mate. Mike Ashley needs to start off. He's running the tune into the ground as well. Steve's gone out to say it seems like it was the Super Six that wanted the Super League, which has been referenced, of course, all over social media today. That the greedy six want to break away from the Premier League, and because it's all about this. And obviously, we've seen what happened at Old Trafford, and we've seen across other Premier League grounds outside Stamford Bridge. But no, when it comes to a Premier League side wanting to take over, because it wouldn't just become a big six, it would effectively be a big seven eventually. Not straight away, but eventually it would happen. And, Arsenal, Man United and Tottenham would be against it, says Martin. Waste of effing time. Ashley wants compo. That is the deal dead. But this is perfect for Ashley after 10 years of trying. Really, is he still messing us about? Right, we'll come back to that because I've still got a few to get through. So, we talked about the Premier League, right? And this fucking blew my mind. And I'm sure it'll blow your mind when you've seen this on social media. The Premier League have threatened Newcastle United to be kicked out of the Premier League. Can you believe that? I kind of get me heat on that. So this is allegedly, I stress, I must say allegedly, but this is from the Newcastle side. So it said, again, from St. James Holdings, he's also claimed that the Premier League had not followed through on a threat to expel Newcastle United from the competition. Could you imagine if that happens, man? Not just as Toon fans, just football in general. From the competition, and stressed there was no basis in the PIF will return to the grey deal if given the green light by the Premier League. So there's two things there that pop out for me. Is of course the Premier League threatening to kick the club out because the club want to play it in public, which will come to. We've got Nick D'Amato coming up with a quote as well. The club were threatening Newcastle United, if you continue to play this in public, we're going to kick you out. Now that's coming from the Newcastle United side, but who'd you rather believe? Newcastle United with a bad ownership, or Devil a better, in the Premier League, who you wouldn't exactly agree with at the minute because they're snidey, they're corrupt, and all of this. So it's a case. I mean, I'll probably sit on Newcastle's fence because I'm obviously biased being a Toon fan. But secondly, on there as well, if I just get that back up again, once again for you, is that, and it's interesting that PAF will return to the grey deal if given the green light. But he stressed there was no basis that the PAF would come back and do the same deal, because it was also talked. I mean, this went on. This cat case went on for 7 hours, and I didn't see all of it, but I seen bits and bobs while I was working. And it's a little bit alarming that you said maybe it's a tactic. They said the PIF might not come back with the same deal. It might be in different terms. I think Ashley just want to get rid of it in the arbitration, which again we'll come back to as well. But that was the main key point. And then did we get an answer? No, we didn't get an answer today at all. The judge has gone on to say at the hearing, Mr. Justice Miles said, "I would like to thank all of the counsel for the very helpful submissions. It'll probably not surprise you to hear that we'll not give a judgment at this stage. You'll be notified in the usual way when we've reached our decision, which we'll go away and consider with care. No time frame was given for the decision to be reached. We're still waiting on this cat case." Now, just to try and put this against the arbitration, a lot of the arbitration is discussed in the cat case today, which the Premier League didn't want that to happen, which I can understand from their point of view, of course, from their side, not from our side, because they don't want this being played in public, because there was a lot of pauses, which I'll come to in a minute. But we need the takeover. Newcastle are saying, do you know what? We've got now to hide. We'll play this in public. We'll show you our books. We'll show that we've done everything right. What you hiding though? What have you got to hide? So, yeah, it's interesting on that. Let's have a look at what you say in the comments. I'm going to go into that, what has been said a little bit more in depth in a second as well. Andrew said, thanks for the vidly. Made more sense in the statements than I could. Mate, I'm trying to make sense of it. I'm not an expert, as I say. I believe it would make actually more, and that's saying something, says Liam. And Mike is a billionaire and a tycoon businessman. If he's taking someone to court, you best believe he thinks that he can win. But mind you, Ashley does not have a good track record in court, hence why probably Nick DeMarco was on board. If we win this, just mean the takeover can happen before the new year. No more. And this is more about the cat case. This is why the Premier League are kind of coming out and biting a little bit, saying, well, this is irrelevant, because this cat case is almost similar to the arbitration, because a lot of it is being discussed about the arbitration. There is some bits which I'm going to come out in a second, because St. James's Holdings one basically hinting on that they want compo because of loss of earnings. That was what it was meant to be mostly about today. But because it falls in line, it runs parallel with the arbitration happening soon. There's no surprise that the arbitration was discussed. Evening, Ollie, how are you doing, mate? I'll be good. Mike, so yeah, the PIF say the cat case had some issues of the arbitration case as well. The arbitration is key, Martin, and this is more about money, mate, says Hudson TV. Again, we know that Mike Ashley is all about money. But let's go into it a little bit more. So Nick DeMarco, who I didn't... Now, you guys might have seen this more than me. I only caught glimpses of about a couple of hours today in spells. But I didn't see Nick DeMarco speak as much, because he was representing Newcastle United, not St. James's Holdings. But again, I talked about it being in public, and Nick DeMarco outlined the club's stance. That he said that the club is content and has requested that the matters to be dealt with in public. Now, a lot of it has obviously came out. We talked about on this channel a few months back, Amanda Stavey, when she came out recently. You guys would have on social media, everybody, other YouTube channels, podcasts, even non-Newcastle supporters were talking about this, thinking, is this dead? Is this over? What's happening? Asking loads of questions. I've been asked shit tons at work, but again, the club's stance is we would like to play this in public. Again, what you's lot got to hide, because we're happy to play this in public. Newcastle, I don't think, have got anything to hide, which from a fan's perspective is probably a little bit reassuring. But again, you're just very careful that should you trust Ashley on everything? No, but does he want to sell the club? I think he does, but I still think he wants money. I agree with what some of you are saying in the cat case. I still think he does want money, whether this is a case of that this is pressure on the Premier League, which I do also think that is. I think there is pressure being put on the Premier League more so here, leading up to the arbitration. So Newcastle have a bit of armoury, a bit of Arsenal going into that. No pun intended with Arsenal. We'll move on. And of course, Mr. Lewis, who's gone on to say, and this is from the Premier League side, Lewis, the name Mr. Lewis is from the Premier League. If the arbitration decides against the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, it is not a director, then the transaction will go ahead literally with the arbitration. There is no question of the owners and directors test being applied to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So he's basically stating that when the arbitration comes round, that if there is no links between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which is the royals of Saudi, knowing and they're not affected or not ran or not involved with the PIF and they're not a director of the club, then Newcastle will have their takeover. That's what the Premier League are saying. But why hasn't it gone through? That's the golden question. What's stopping the Premier League? Because remember, this was the arbitration, which is separate from today's case, was obviously adjourned and delayed because there wasn't enough evidence. Where the evidence from who? Exactly, from Premier League, I'm probably guessing. That's my guess. So we'll go on. We'll come to your comments in a second as well. And the next one is that Mr. Lewis, again representing the Premier League, has dismissed the argument about damages and losses, saying St. James's Holdings Limited still owns the club and it still has the prospect of completing the deal. On that foot alone, it does not have any standing to bring of that claim. You've been able to show the loss occurred. They've shot the bull too quickly. And then Mr. Justice Miles has asked, is it not fair that a tort, a civil wrong, has delayed the transaction and therefore cost Ashley and his company? Mr. Lewis then dismissed it, saying we have not reached this stage yet. And what the Premier League are arguing about compensation is because the Premier League are then saying that this arbitration is still open, the takeover is still there to happen. So why should you have compensation? Because it's still there belonging. You can prove to us that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is not involved with the PIF. You can have your takeover. So that's the argument the Premier League were having regarding St. James's Holdings, which remember, Nick DeMarco was representing Newcastle. We had somebody else representing St. James's Holdings. Sorry, I forgot his name. I'm not clued up. I'm trying to get the best of this, what you lot are as well. We'll just pause there. We'll have a look at what you're saying in the comments as well. Jane Atlanta says the most important thing that it gets it done, even if it's not time for the January transfer window. No, not get in for the window, I don't think. I think it's too soon. I think it'll probably look at the summer. Andrew's gone out and say, I think we all know Ashley won't spend $1 million on lawyers if he didn't see a future profit. So based on that, you've got to have hope. Martin's gone out and say the only reason Uncle Mike is trying to sell to the Saudis is that they're paying well over the odds. That's why he won't let it lie. And if he gets a few offers, you'll only get about 250 million. Remember, Newcastle United could easily go down this season because let's be realistic, even if the takeover happens, is there enough money to pump into that? I don't think so. So Newcastle still could go down with Ashley, or if the Saudis were to be approved still, because there's not enough time to pump cash into money for improving the transfer. You could change the manager, I guess, which 98% of Newcastle fans do want. Most club sales don't happen until the summer, mate. So I've just read. Yep, spot on. Can you call me man, please? Says Chris. FFS, before anything happens, we need to stay up. There you go. I've just literally said it, Paul. You've just literally took the words right out of my mouth. And I'm sure it's been proven in other countries that the PIF are separated from the Saudi government. I can't really answer that. I don't know the full ins and outs of that, Liam. Callum's gone on to say that they don't want us to compete with the top six. I genuinely believe that is some of the case. I do believe some of that is correct. They don't want a big seven because then, UEFA only allow top four and, it's going to be too big. The Premier League will become the Super League effectively with another one with a seventh. And then you've got to look at like clubs who are, Leicester and Everton are probably just a bit behind the big six, the greedy six as I like to call them. But yeah, I'll agree to some extent on that as well. Mike's also said that the PIF say that they can't distinguish between the PIF and KSA as separate identities as well. And there was so much talk of takeover for years with no follow through. Yeah, I would agree on that. We've been so much frustration as well. Premier League wants us to be a weak team. I mean, funny enough, if we get relegated, we'll have the takeover like that because the EFL are different. But obviously, we didn't want again. Doon, of course, not. And Ashley still looks like he's willing to take a chance on the relegation. Yeah, Hudson, I definitely agree. And the Premier League wants us, I'm reading out the same comments. Right, we'll move forward to some of the next bit, which was discussed on here, which was St. James's, as I mentioned, St. James's Holding was different as well. So this is St. James's Holding. So Mr. Joel, who's got on to say St. James's this is obviously from the Premier League side, remember, that this St. James's is the company that was going to sell its shares. Sorry, this is Newcastle United. Sorry, this is not Newcastle United. This is St. James's Holding. God, even I'm getting lost. So this is St. James's Holding representative. St. James's is the company that was going to sell its shares, and therefore St. James's has suffered the loss of the sale. It is compensation for the loss of the sale that is seeking its damages. The club may, that's a separate, remember, from St. James's, the club may well have suffered a loss, but it's loss that will take in a very different form. It's a loss in the form of extra investment it would have had under a new owner. So he's talking about, obviously, St. James's, which the region is around about 10 million that they claim that they've probably lost with the takeover not going through. And then Newcastle United, separately, because St. James's is obviously Ashley's company, Newcastle United have obviously lost out investment because Newcastle may have a different manager now. There could be floating around Europa League positions if they had better investment. Who knows where we could have been a year later? We don't know. We can only talk and dream and speculate of all of that as well. And then, of course, I talked about the Premier League being against the takeover, which is it's just mental, isn't it? It's crackers. Mr. Joel's gone on to say that he's raised the allegation that major clubs applied pressure on the Premier League against the deal. He said that we say that this is lobbying and the pressure distorted the Premier League's fair and objective application of the rules. So he's gone on to say once again, which we talked about 10 minutes ago, that there's clubs in the Premier League who don't want this takeover going through, and there's pressure for BN Sports who don't want it going through because BN Sport. And you see what I mean? I'm kind of like repeating myself a little bit as well on that. So we'll move on to the next bit. We've got a couple of more to get through as well. So, and Mr. Joel says the decision has produced a classic case of a loss of a sale for St. James's Holding. He goes on to say that the loss at this point exceeds 10 million, which I briefly talked about just a minute or so ago. Let's have a look at what he's saying in the comments before we'll move forward. Again, I'm trying to keep it up, so apologies if I miss your comments out. Who is the top six? Yeah, you're going to go into this. Is it Arsenal? They've only just started to get results. Spurs? Yeah, I would rename that probably the greedy six as well. Nuno's actually joint favourite for the first second with Steve Bruce, 4-1 on odds checker. I would just post that in the socials. I did the video on it yesterday when I was down in London. Sports neglect, yeah, spot on. Tottenham and Arsenal are mid-tables teams now. How can they be big six? Yeah, I see where they're going with this. Andrew's gone out and said, interesting to hear them state that there's been other offers interest in Newcastle regarding the takeover since it failed bid in 2020, though. Yeah, good shout, good point. And if we go down and the takeover happens, what would that mean for us coming back up? That's a golden question. I think we should be able to, because you would imagine there'll be investment of some sort. You've got the Premier League Paramount shooting the payment. Sorry, you would imagine that just to please the fans, they'll probably just change the manager. Because it's quite easy to please us. You've just got to change a few things and we're happy. Do you know what I mean? It's simple stuff that even our current owners can't even do at the minute. And it's gone on to say, I'm doing well. I've been at all the Newcastle games in September. Might pop on the fan reaction show on Saturday as I'm not going to the Wolves game. Yeah, there's tons of us at the Wolves game. I think there's 5 or 6 of us down there. So there's loads of us down at Molineux this weekend. I liked how the judge pulled Lewis up on that. He said, if I tried to sell something and was prevented from doing so, how haven't I suffered a loss? Good point, Tom. Yeah, so... You know, Newcastle fans, as I say, all over social media saying it's a win for Newcastle. Let us know. Do you think it's a win for Newcastle today? I'm still 50-50 on it. I still think not the arbitration. Forget about the arbitration. The cat case for me, it's down there for me. I know it's hard not to talk about the arbitration because that's the bigger thing for us as a fan base, is to try and get, the Toon takeover done. King Con TV, Ari Bro, nice watching live. Thank you very much. It's been a while. Haven't done many live videos because I was at the games. So, yeah. And David's gone, late. How are you, lad? I'm very well. Enjoyed my birthday on the weekend down in London. Spent 3 days there after Watford. And the missus' birthday's tomorrow as well. So, we're doing something tomorrow. So, yeah. Busy time. Loving life, except from this takeover. Tons of pauses. Now, this was brought up, and I had to mention it because the live stream, if any of you guys were watching this, right? The live stream gone off for approximately about 10 minutes while further confidential information was discussed in private. And it wasn't just the first time, it was several times during the stream that it had to be paused because there was, inverted commas, confidentiality from the Premier League that they didn't want the public to know, hence why the stream was paused and you didn't see it. Look, there's probably a lot of stuff in there from both sides that we're never going to learn until maybe the takeover happens. Definitely not from the Premier League side, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But I thought that was interesting that the Premier League, again, what the hiding whys, the pause. Newcastle United, Nick DeMarco said already that we're happy to play this in public. Why is the pauses in the live stream? What have you got to hide? Why is it so confidential? If there's anybody's names in there, take the names out. If there's any companies, take the companies out. Whatever it is, you can always rephrase them to different words, to company or Mr. Smith or Mr. A, whatever. You know where I'm going with that, if it is something like that. Cheers, mate. Thank you, Andrew, for that. I don't think today has done any harm. It definitely hasn't. I think it has put a little bit of pressure back on as well. Where Newcastle United, it was a draw. Yeah, 1-1. Put that on. Put that on with Wolves. You know fine well it'll be a 1-1 draw with Wolves. Remember, if you do want to come on before I go through all of this as well, if you just want to jump on, have your say, there's a link in the top of the live chat. We'll talk to each other for about 5 minutes. David, I can see you in the green screen. I'll bring in a couple of minutes, mate. But if anyone else wants to pop on, please do as well. We've got another one just to quickly go through, which was interesting because the Premier League called it a farce. Yes, those were the correct terminology today. That Mr. Lewis QC, on behalf of the Premier League, insists the arbitration will proceed on January the 3rd, which we do know that, of course. So the arbitration will start, and it is expected that the arbitration will go on for just over a week, so possibly 7 to 10 days. And he's labelled it a farce that St. James's Holdings, i.e. Mike Ashley's company, and Newcastle United are being described as separate entities, if I said that right, no, I haven't, for the purpose of this hearing. And Mr. Lewis has gone on to say that he claims over loss and damages illusory, given the fact there's yet to be a sale, which I talked about briefly a little bit earlier on. That why is Newcastle United, basically the Premier League are asking why Newcastle United and St. James Holding, they're both in the same court case. One's actually trying to claim compensation. I think from what I've seen, Nick DeMarco wasn't speaking as much as I say. I think he was just there to speak on behalf of Newcastle United if needed, and he'll probably be taking a lot of notes, a lot of research, because his big job is to represent us for the arbitration. We know that as well. Let's go at your comments as well, Dave, quickly before I come to David as well. Is it true that the Premier League try to ban us from the league? Yes. On what terms? Probably because we're playing out in public. I don't know. Don't know the full. Going down to get the takeover done. Ashley Bruce going well, worth it. 250, hit that like. If you can do 287, smash that like button. Thank you very much for this. I hope you get a little better understanding of this. Look, I totally don't fully understand what's happening tonight, but most of it, I'm trying to do that. And the Premier League have got a nerve to say they're thinking of kicking us out of the league. What a nerve they've got. The top 6 teams try to join the ESL. It's an absolute joke. Yeah, I know exactly. My brother's in the chat. Hello, mate. How are you doing? Yeah, right. Connor's in there. And Elliot's gone and say, I like the midweek because most of us are at the game. I miss giving my opinions when I'm at a football match. Elliot's referring to the fan reaction show. Elliot, if you want to come on tonight, mate, you're more than happy to pop on. Hello, everyone. Hello, mate. BN Sport have a massive impact on this as well. Right, we're going to bring in David. David, how are you, mate?
I'm all right, mate. How's you and the lads?
Yeah, we're all good. We're just trying to get our head wrapped around like what's happened today. Yeah, so
what's this with points deduction that we're gonna get?
I haven't seen that. Is that a rumor going around?
Well, I've heard that there's supposed to be a 25 point deduction.
I haven't seen it, man. Unless when did that come out? Was that just the last couple of hours?
No, just like an hour ago. I've seen it.
Oh, wait, I haven't seen that because I've been preparing for this stream because it takes us like over an hour to prepare a stream. I don't think that'll happen. I cannot say that happening. I think it'll just be.
I didn't say the one where we've been after being kicked out of the league. I just seen the one that deduction, the point deduction.
Yeah, I haven't seen the point reduction. I cannot say that happening because again, it's the Premier League putting. Maybe it's just rumours going around or pressure that wasn't mentioned at all in the CAT case today. So I would take that with a pinch of salt. But I think with the other thing, getting kicked out of the league, that is being talked about from Newcastle's side. What do you make of that? The threat there?
I'm surprised, really, with with Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea. They all went into the Super Six.
Exactly.
Super League.
The Super League.
And they're planning on scrapping what they call as the big 6.
The greedy 6, as I call them.
Yeah, but they're not getting any punishment. But just because we want a better financial. How can I word it? A better stadium and a better life, really.
We do. We look.
We're not asking for much. All we're asking for is to compete
and a bit of hope. I think the first thing you look at is, I think you've got to look at, David, is look at the stadium on the outside. Look
it's disgraceful.
A lot of fans, neutral fans, don't see it because they don't see St James Park nearly every time that it's on TV or an interview's happening or whatever. You at the ground. I think the training ground is probably ahead of the stadium for me. That's priority. So if the PF would come in, it's got to be the training ground first.
It's like a school ground, isn't it?
Looks like a bunch of bungalows, the terrace bungalow street. That's what it literally looked like with a field in the background. So for me, the training ground needs sorting out. Then the stadium, the playing ground, the playing staff, you can eventually, because of FIFA Fair Play, you kind of just spend 500 million and go crackers anymore. You can't do that anymore.
Like I say the training ground, I'm waiting for the lollipop lady to stand outside the training ground with a stick.
What, down the little back lane?
But we've got gates on our training ground. What the hell?
I think that's probably to stop fans coming in. I think that's pretty standard for most Premier League grounds. I would have thought. I don't think Newcastle United's got much security from what I've seen at other training grounds. You literally just got a gate. You could walk down effectively, and then security might come out. But what's your thoughts on the CAT case? Are you neutral? Because I'm a bit neutral still at the minute. Or have you still got? Are you more happy? Or you're like, it's not happening? Because it'll lead into arbitration, and that's what I mean. It's going to lead into arbitration.
Before the CAT case, I didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think this takeover would happen. But now I've seen the CAT case. I'm a bit more. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I still think it's not going to happen until I've seen actual Manchester City stand in the middle of the park with a black and white bra above her head.
A black and white bra?
Yeah. Or something like that.
Oh my God, that'll be a sight for sore eyes for some people. Right, she's a good-looking woman for her age, put it that way. She's watching the late 40s. She's a good-looking woman for her age. I wanted to ask you quickly before we move on. Connor will bring up kind of next, but do you talk about the arbitration? Do you, in all honesty, right? Do you think that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, one of the royals, is in with the PIF?
No. I don't. I think PIF is separate.
Because that's what the Premier League are trying to go against us, aren't they? Newcastle United. We've seen it with Stavely. We've seen it with Nick DeMarco. We've seen it with our husbands. And
but didn't Nick DeMarco say it was separate?
Yeah, and they're all adamant saying, "Do you know what? We want to play this in public because we've got now to hide." So
obviously, when they're saying, they're going to kick out the league, obviously they've got something to hide. They've got something to hide. They don't want it. They didn't want it in public, so therefore they've got something to hide.
Yeah. Right, David. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. Thank you for your opinions.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, mate. Right, we're bringing Connor, one of our members, regular. You might see him on this channel quite a bit. How are you, mate?
Not too badly, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, like I said to David before, I'm just trying to wrap my head around all of this, finishing work, just doing a bit of research on this all. And what do you make of all of this?
To be perfectly honest with you, I think, and I have done for a long time, that there's something rotten in the state of Denmark. I can't put my finger on what it is, but in my opinion, I think there's something that the Premier League are very, very keen to keep hidden. And there's clearly reasons for that. I think the fact that they sat in their hands for so long, initially using COVID as an excuse and getting the league started up. Once that was started and done with, everybody's thinking, well, surely now they can pay attention to this. Didn't bother doing that. We couldn't get a word out of Richard Masters, and the next thing you see him, he's at Anfield handing the trophy to Liverpool. So I just think, to me, what you were talking about there, the PIF and the Kingdom, I think, are separate, because to me, why would the PIF and the Saudis in general allow it to be continually pushed this far if they weren't separate entities, because at the end of the day, it would just be a gigantic waste of time for them and would probably denigrate some of their credibility, in all honesty, if it turned out that all along they were lying and actually it's not separate. So it feels to me as if it is separate, but I don't know what it is the Premier League are trying to hide from them. This can kicking that's going on and on, that's costing the club money every time they get a hold put on the arbitration and kicked further down. I mean, it's January now, but we've no guarantee that in January it will be heard and there won't just be another continuance to April or May.
It was interesting what the Premier League saying that they want it resolved in January. That was from their side in the CAT case today. So, you know, I think the CAT case is just like it's building up, isn't it? That's what today I feel. That's what I generally feel, that today is building up. Whereas the Premier League were trying to say, well, wait a minute, you need to scrap this CAT case because your takeover is still technically there, which will happen in January because you will get answers. It'll be resolved. You can't keep adjourning. At some point, the court will say, we need a decision. Do you feel the CAT case, he's not going to get the 10 million? This is just a smoke screen waiting for January?
I think so, yeah. I think if we're all being perfectly honest here, the 10 million to me is a bit of a joke. You know, the one thing, it's probably the only thing that the Premier League's lawyer said that I would agree with. It is farcical to try and separate St James's holdings from Newcastle United as a football club for the purposes of this. And it's just Ashley trying to find a way around getting more money in his pocket. Because, of course, right now, for as long as he is the man who's in control of the club, then they are one and the same entity. They'll only be separate entities when he does one and leaves. So I do think that part's farcical, and it is a smoke screen to this. It's good to hear some stuff on it. It's good to have some silence lifted, and if we hadn't had so many gaps where things were being confidential, then that would be better. But to me, the big thing is January. I'm still not convinced it's going to happen, because as much as I don't trust the Premier League, I don't have great trust in Amanda Staveley either. You know, I've heard some interviews she's done, you know, in TalkSport, Sky Sports, and all these kind of places, and you know, there's one or two things that she says as well that to me are just a bit, I don't know, hard to kind of believe. You know, when the fans were going down to London to lobby the government and things like that, and you know, she's encouraging them to do that. Well, if you're so passionate, why weren't you leading that charge? Why weren't you there in London instead of sitting in your cushy mansion?
Yeah, because it could have been a lot. It could have been a lot bigger, couldn't it? There could have been a lot more numbers if, you know, it was pushed by her.
Absolutely. Well, she's got considerable sway, so if she's physically there in the firing line, that becomes harder to ignore, and you might get even more people going along because they think, well, if she's willing to go that far, then clearly there's, you know, it's really serious. But yeah, it's difficult. But I think the Premier League, whatever happens, are not going to come out of this looking good whatsoever, because
if Newcastle win it, that just opens a can of worms, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But I think it's a can of worms that need to be open, because I think most football fans, not just Newcastle fans, would be sick of the idea that the Premier League right now primarily is influenced and run almost by the Qataris and BN Sports because of that massive deal that they've got. So much so to the point where people in this country pay an absolute fortune to watch football games on television, and every weekend you can't watch just about any game that's on at 3 o'clock because of a blackout.
We'll have to wait there, isn't it?
Yeah, but that part of that is because the Qataris get such big money from that blackout, because they show, obviously, in their country, people will illegally stream. That's why that argument doesn't hold water, because people illegally stream all the time in this country, and they don't.
Look at the Man U game with, you know, Ronaldo with us.
Well, exactly. You know, I wouldn't have been surprised if there was a lot of servers that day overloaded by the amount of people trying to get on just to see him. So, yeah, no, I think a can of worms is needed. If we were a bigger club, we wouldn't be in this situation. If this was a Liverpool, a Manchester United, even a Spurs or an Arsenal, it wouldn't be this difficult. And they certainly wouldn't have ignored clubs that big, because you can't ignore a club that big. Whereas with us, they think, pat them to the side, they'll just stay on ice. So, Yeah, I think.
Well, yeah, last question before we bring in Elliot. We've got Jay in Atlanta and a good old Johnny Greenwood. Don't know how that kid is. We've got. I wanted to ask you about sport in Saudi Arabia because we've seen quite a lot now. The F1, which I'm a big fan of. Boxing as well. I like me boxing on the box office. You know, they're trying to make waves. You know, they're trying to. I think the first ever Saudi. I might be wrong, and there's the first ever Saudi female in the Olympics recently as well. They're trying to make a move in sport, and obviously they want to come across to Western sport in terms of buying a global asset because it will be. Newcastle United will be all over Saudis. If it happens in Formula One, if it happens, do you know where I'm going here? If it happens in Formula One, then they can have it. If they can have it in boxing, then they can have it. Why?
They've got a huge deal with WWE, the wrestling as well. They go
Yeah, good shout. But
$1 billion.
Am I right in saying that's the Royals involved in that?
Yeah, they're heavily involved in that. They've got a lot of things they're trying to
worry that it's basically the Royals who are behind the scenes pulling the strings.
Well, yeah, but I guess that's why they're worried. But then it doesn't add up that they would be, because when you look at how many pies they've got their fingers in just now, would they be allowed to if that was the case all the time? I mean, look at the fact that the PIF have got shares in Disney, for example, a multi-billion-dollar American
Facebook
corporation.
as well.
Facebook as well. I'm not convinced they would allow that or would have signed that deal if it hadn't been proven that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the royals were not actually heavily involved in the PIF. But I think that the Premier League are worried about that. And look, there's understandable worries for people with the Saudis. We know they're morally corrupt. We know the kind of human rights abuses that they've had in the, Jamal Khashoggi's of the world. I actually thought, as much as I feel for her, I thought it was quite disgraceful that the media in this country were parading his widow on television when the takeover deal talk first started. That was almost to try and influence the Premier League as well and go, well, you can't allow that because here's a widow of which was a disgusting act. So, there's another reason for you not to do it. But that is what I think the Premier League are worried by. And they're worried by the kind of backlash they might get from this. But we also have to remember, Saudis already own football clubs in this country. Sheffield United are owned by a Saudi. Noticeably, that went through easier because they were in the EFL at the time. And there was not many.
He's a Royal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ironic.
Yeah, because it was EFL, so it's not as many bits of red tape to cut through. But yeah, no, definitely. I think that's probably one of the biggest worries, the Premier League. There's no question about it.
Yeah. Well, Conor, thank you very much for coming on. If you want to be involved on Saturdays, give us a shout on Discord, mate.
I will do.
Right.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, very night, mate. Right, we're bringing Elliot. Elliot loves a good passion. I've been waiting for this. Come on, then. Tell me what you think.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, mate.
I've been to all the games in September.
Are you a bigger fan of Johnny Greenwood?
Yes. And I prefer a midweek show after the Champions League games. I saw bugger me when Cristiano Ronaldo scored 30 times against Villarreal. And I haven't been following the court case because I've been at college all day. I've been aware of it on social media.
Yeah, it's everywhere. You just look at Twitter and Facebook. It's everywhere, isn't it?
So I won't be able to give you much background information to the court case. But I gather it's a pre-hearing, like it's the build-up
to the big one.
To the big one in the new year, early 2022, as promised. I won't put an end date on when that stuff will be finished, but I hope it will be done before May, June time, before the season finishes.
Do you know? Did you think? Obviously, you haven't seen much of it, which is fair enough, Elliot. I don't think a lot of people have. Hence why we're doing that video tonight. Do you feel where's your head at in terms of? Do you think it'll go through? Are you 50-50? Are you more positive 75? Where you're at?
No comments at the minute. But
you sound like the club.
Ask me later.
Oh, come on, Elliot. I'm putting you on the spot, man. This is why you're live in front of the world.
I really hope it goes through 100%.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate.
But now I'm like, no comments.
Oh, it's not like you were sitting on the fence, Elliot. You're normally passionate and rant and rave. What's happened to you?
It's quite late now. But the frustrating thing is we're flirting with relegation every week.
Yeah.
But
and that's the thing as well, Elliot. You go to Newcastle United and you don't look at Newcastle and think, right, I'm looking forward to the day because we're gonna win the day, we're gonna win 2-3-0. It's more like now, oh, I hope we get a point today. It's that mindset changed.
But I'm going to Crystal Palace, Chelsea and Brighton.
Good on you. I want to hear you cheering, mind.
Yes. Even though the tickets aren't out, I've got the diary out.
Oh, have you got your Christmas schedule sorted yet? Because there's tons of games on Christmas.
Yes.
I hope you're going to be on the piss with us on New Year's Eve down Southampton.
No. My cousin lives down there, so I'll just send them to the game.
Quality. Absolutely quality. Well, Elliot, we're going to move. Go on then, one more. Go on.
But my dad said there's always people in minibuses going on the pitch, no matter how far away or how far across the orbit. There's always at least 1,000 people going to the away games.
Yeah, you just get yourself in a posh limo, man. Right, Elliot, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you very much for coming on because we've got Jane and that now. Ta-da. Bye-bye. Good to speak to you, Elliot. Hello, mate. Long time no see.
Hey, it's been a while. I'm around. I watch the games and I chat. I've just been busy on the weekend, so I have just not been able. I watch the game and then I go to work or do what I'm doing. So, but it's good to talk to you. So
it is. I was saying earlier, I don't do many lives because I'm always at the games. I miss out on the interaction, which I probably should try and get a live in every midweek, perhaps. But how then, Jay? What's your thoughts on what's happened today?
Well, I just want to say that none of this is going to the plan of the Premier League. This is not what they want. They got caught making a cookie jar last year and their hand fully in it. And the top 6 teams, by whatever definition, those teams are the top revenue generating teams. And it's not close. Arsenal, who was in 6th in 2020, was more than double of the total revenue of the 7th place team. So these are the teams that represent the biggest brand. And when you look at the Premier League prize winnings and you see that someone hauls away 200 million in one year and then clubs that get relegated haul away 130 million, that seems kind of fair, right? But that's not the whole story. They make money off their brand and they make money off being in Europe from whatever they can get from that. And that turns a 200 million take into a 600 million take. And that is a big difference. And they do not in any way want anyone else playing in the big game. Like West Ham this year, somebody's out. Somebody's not getting extra money. And if that happens too many times to Arsenal, for example, then their brand is going to fall down. It's going to take a long time. So whether they really colluded, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not suggesting anything. But if you just ask generally wealthy clubs whether they want somebody else to be wealthy, they'll say no, and they should say no. And I think this is a very bad look for them, whether we win or not today. I guess that's my main point, Lee.
Yeah, it's easy to get sidetracked because today was meant to be about the financial loss of St. James's Holdings, which they're claiming it's 10 million. Same question to you what I asked David earlier on. Is that a smokescreen?
I think they thought it was going to be, but I don't think they wanted how this looks. I didn't get to watch today, but I pretty much skimmed every article that's published by everybody because everybody's got a take on it today. And they don't look good in any of that. So I think it was supposed to be a smokescreen. It's certainly not done, right? It's definitely not a done deal, but this is not going the way they planned. I don't think they didn't want it to be public, and it is public. And I tell you what, I wouldn't go to court against Mike Ashley. I mean, I don't like the man personally. I think he runs our club terribly, but if he thinks he can win in court, I think he's right a lot, right? I don't think he'd be there if he didn't think he could win.
Yeah, he's got the best in the game, and Nick DeMarco, who's obviously Newcastle want this played out in public, which is rare for Newcastle, isn't it? Because you were always associated with Newcastle hiding behind the scenes, not communicating with fans. Fans forum doesn't even exist anymore. I mean, when was the last one? I mean, that was years ago, and they don't talk. I mean, I've had a right carry on moving seat recently. That took 2 months. The communication, everyone's got their own personal story, but when it comes to the takeover, though, they're like, oh yes, open book. Because generally for the first time, Newcastle United are innocent and they've got all this open to, you know what? Come on then. We're happy to do it.
They looked around and they said, we're not the baddies for once, right? Let's make it public, right?
No, I totally agree with you. Do you think this, obviously everyone's trying to talk about the takeover because obviously the focus is switched to that now. January 3rd, it's what you're talking 3 months, October. Yeah, so 4 months from now. So that'll come around pretty quick because that's going to be in the heat of the games. You're going to be after that. You've got the Christmas schedule. You're talking 20 games in there. Is it? I think it's too soon, even if the takeover happens, to invest money in January because you've got to like take it over, which will probably take. I would imagine the director's test takes weeks on end, which we've talked about. Do you think it'll be more in the summer that we'll see the investment, if that is it happens and it goes through?
Well, I must say that just watching some stuff on Twitter today, I was like, we're going to get taken over in January and win the league, which was not a rational response today. So no, that's not all going to happen that fast. And it's definitely not going to happen on time. But so by summertime, I stand corrected on that craziness. By summertime, be sorted out. And I'd rather get taken over than stay up if I had to choose. It's the same choice we've been making for a year and a half on the channel, right? But I think it is more important to get taken over. I don't want to get relegated. It sure looks like we're trying like hell to get relegated. So I'd just rather get this done.
Would you take it if I said, right, we're getting relegated, but there's a takeover for you?
Yep. So we'll see. But I do think I don't know. We look good in the first half. Let's see how we play in the second half in January. That's kind of where I'm at.
Let's hope, because fine well it's going to be 1-1 this weekend with Wolves. It always seems to be that way.
Absolutely.
It always seems to be a nighttime game for changes to midday 3 p.m. So just quickly, because I haven't really got you on as much today, where's your head at in terms of Newcastle United switching from 5 back to 4? Do you want to see that going in for the rest of the season?
I guess I'll take anything other than the 5 just because the way we play it is so defensive. We don't even try to counter out of it. Got in a huge argument in a garage watching a game this last weekend over this while this was going on with another mate of mine over here. Yeah, I'd rather see that, but I don't think any of that is really going to work under Bruce's overall strategy. I just don't. With anyone else, I believe we have a better chance of staying up. Could Bruce keep us up? Yeah, I have to acknowledge that that's possible. Am I happier with the 4? Yeah, we got broken defenders. We got problems here and there. So I'd rather see the 4 than the 5 structurally on a way to play. But I just don't think Bruce – I don't think Bruce is going to keep us up no matter what we play. So to me, it's better to make a change at the helm.
Last question before we move on. Do you think we need investment, but with this now looming, and we need a striker in terms because he's not playing Dwight Gale. We've got a winger who, yes, he's doing the business at the moment, but Alan Saint-Maximin isn't a striker. Do you see it just being a loan potentially if we can get one over the line? Is that it in January?
I think I think Ashley might do what it takes to secure his investment. He might do that should things look good at the last moment, right? And can't get things done. So it's possible, but I think it would take a lot to make that happen. And I think that if we're, anytime it's been anywhere close, Ashley doesn't splash the cash very much. And we have done a lot of loans lately. We'll have to see. I think a lot rides on, look, I'm American. I love Miggy from Atlanta, but he's kind of frustrating me too. I think
he's doing all right the last couple of games.
He's doing all right, but he's constantly out of position. I just feel like we have the talent to stay up, Lee. I really do think that we have the talent to stay up and not finish 17th either, by the way. Probably, somewhere mid-teens. But the big barrier is the coaching and any assets we get in the way of loans or some miracle in the transfer window. I wouldn't bet on that. Sam's our betting guy, so you have to ask him what the odds on that are, but I wouldn't bet on that.
Yeah, he only talks about his wins. He never ever talks about his losses, so he's very
fair enough.
Very, very quiet on that. Jay, lovely to speak to you. Thank you very much for popping on, mate.
Cheers,
Thank you. Oh, we've got someone who you might recognise next, Mr. Greenwood. How are you, Johnny?
Not too bad, mate. How are you? Good birthday.
It was canny. Thank you very much. You might have seen what I've been up to on the socials and that, on Instagram and that, but it was good. I'm going to bring in Andrew as well, just to speed things up a little bit. But what's your general intake of today, Johnny?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Hi, mate.
Evening, Andrew. How are you? No, it's been all right. It's been all right. I think we've found out more than we thought we were going to find out.
Because we've got a date.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of things which, when it was obviously behind closed doors and had to make private, obviously people were a bit annoyed with. But
why? What are hiding? Because that's all from the Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah, I think look, you said it before. I think Jay said it. Newcastle want everything out in public. Premier League don't. The Premier League are hiding a couple of things, and I think that will come out to light in probably January the 3rd. I think that's a big thing that we know when this arbitration is going to start, is the 3rd of January. I think a lot of fans will look at that as that's the day. That's the day where this will either be won or lost. Not the actual day, but that's when it starts. And obviously, I think people are saying it might take about a week or so. But don't expect Mike Ashley to spend anything in the first couple of weeks of January, which I knew you probably wouldn't have done anyway. I don't think the club would have done anything like that anyway. So that doesn't surprise me. One thing that did surprise me, I don't know if it's been mentioned too much as I've been coming in and out, was the fact that they've said that there's still other deals on the table. And
do you reckon?
Well, this is what I'm saying. Again, you can only take it face value. And if that's the case, then is there a plan B? Because, yes, I know the plan A is to go hammer and tong, literally, to get this takeover done. They want this takeover. Ashley is adamant this is the one he wants. He's got the best in the business in DeMarco, who hasn't lost a court case in regards to a football club. He's putting all his eggs into that basket, and he's paying good money for it by the sound of it. It would not surprise me if it came out with a settlement and it wasn't like a 4 against. I think it wouldn't look as bad from the Premier League if there was a settlement. It wouldn't surprise me. But the settlement would have to include this takeover getting concluded. Because that's what Newcastle want. The Premier League just, I don't know. The Premier League, I think, they've been put into a corner. They really have. They might win this case. They might.
I'm not bothered to win this case because it's all meant to be about Ashley losing money. That's what it's meant to be about today. Yeah. And obviously, it's hard not to talk about the takeover because that's looming. That's in the horizon, and this leads onto a takeover. So it's like me going past 10 players against the Mackhams, right, the other day in goal, and then I square it to you, Johnny. You've got the open goal, which you probably missed once again. See what I've done there? You missed open goals, Johnny.
Hold on, he makes 1 or 2 saves against the Mackhams, and who do you think he is, man? Who do you think prime Shay Given?
Well, I was back in the day. Not anymore. Mid-30s now, man. Mid-30s now. Andrew.
40, man. I see your big 40 badge.
Fuck off. Andrew, you've been in the comments, obviously listening as well. What's your take on this?
I'm I'm going to agree with totally with Johnny's just said. I think the thing that got me was the fact that they've openly come out and said that there was other interested parties that have come out and made official interest in the club. And I think that's simply down to going back to one of my comments in the chat. I was told by an old man when I was about 14, sorry to get a bit sentimental, but he went to me, why do you support Newcastle? Well, because I heard Les Ferdinand on the radio when I was about 4 or 5 year olds scoring a goal, and he scored like in consecutive games, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? It's my local team. And I think when you're looking at a company like PIF, who invested in some of the biggest companies in the world lately, they're not stupid people. They know what the market is. We have a huge market around here. If you're living in London, you can support 20, 30 teams. You will live up north. You support Newcastle or Sunderland, or you might be a glory seeker and support Man United. They know their market. And I think other rich people are coming and looking at this and go, who's this Newcastle United? How many fans have they got still following the club from a relatively successful period in the 90s and the early 2000s? Look what we could do with this. And everyone else in the top 6 is recognising this threat. And this is why we're in the position that we're in.
Yeah. My camera always plays up after 1 hour on this camera. I don't know why.
It must be when I come on, mate, because the last 3 times I've come on, my internet's played up or something.
No, it's not you. It's my camera. Does it after 1 hour, Mark? And it fixes itself eventually. So what I might do then, I might bring Callum in and let Johnny take over whilst I refix this, if that's all right, Johnny.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. No, I think it's interesting, Andrew. And obviously, Callum's just joining as well. Even to you, Callum, how are you?
I'm well, thanks, Johnny. How are you guys?
Yeah, not too bad at all. I thought I was just going to be a guest today, but I ended up not taking over. But yeah, I'm main presenter for 2 or 3 minutes while Lee sorts his camera out. But I'll let you talk a bit now, Callum. I think it's obviously been a big day for Newcastle United and Mike Ashley into the Premier League, and I feel like it's came with more questions than it has answers, which is always inevitable, really. What was the biggest thing that you took from all that was said this afternoon or this morning, Callum?
I haven't heard it, but I know I've been lazy to get up. But when I read the things on Sammy, it's very interesting. It's still a bit 50-50, but I still hope that the takeover goes through. Guys, like I said, everyone, to my mates or my family, we deserve the takeover, no matter what.
I think it's interesting, Andrew. I don't think that's really the. I don't think that's the issue. Really. I think we want a takeover. It's just, is it going to be this takeover? And the one thing I kind of gathered from what has been said today is that Newcastle United and Mike Ashley want this one. This is the one they've always wanted. They want to get this one over the line, and they will do everything in their power to get this takeover through. Now, a lot of reasons, and I remember me and Sam were very fortunate, and Lee was there as well. We interviewed Sir John Hall, and he was talking about when Mike Ashley wanted to buy Newcastle, and the reason why he wanted Mike Ashley wanted to buy Newcastle was to make his brand global and bigger. Now, if you put 2 and 2 together, we've talked about previously in the video about how Saudi Arabia have had the boxing, the F1, WWE, etc., etc. You could just see Mike Ashley's mind going, well, I could get Sports Direct in Saudi. I could get deals done there. And I think that's why he wants this one done, because he knows there's so much money in the Saudis that he could make his sports brand so much bigger overnight if this can be done. Do you think that's the bottom line almost, Andrew, that if he can get this deal done to sell Newcastle to the Saudis, overnight, Mike Ashley's brand could be bigger, not necessarily Newcastle United straight away?
I think that does play a part. I mean, who wouldn't want to, if you're a business and you get involved with a bigger player in your game, maybe they're not bigger players at the moment, but ultimately they've got the finances to throw at it to be big. So yes, it's going to play on his mind, but let's hope that he's true to his word. He had an interview and he said that I won't just sell to anybody. I want to sell to someone that's going to take the club where I wanted to take it, and I haven't got the finances to do it. The PIF have clearly got the money, but do they connect with well? We don't know yet because we're not being given the opportunity. What I do see from them though is, from what we've seen from little glimpses of news, and their plan isn't just to take over Newcastle United as a football club. Their plan is to grow Newcastle as a city, invest in the people around it. So, you know, we're talking about losses in regards to what Newcastle United Football Club have lost, or the company that owns Newcastle, Holdings. What about the city? What about the people around it? We're losing out at the same time. You know, if it's not for a legitimate reason, which if there was, we wouldn't be having this conversation because there'd be no court case. So why we're sitting waiting here for a decision when it's really all it's about is a football club?
Of course, that's the bottom line, Callum, isn't it? It's about the football club, and Andrew talks passionately about everything else, and it's all smoke and mirrors until the actions are done and until we obviously get a decision. But every day, this lack of decision is harming the football club. It harmed the football club in the summer as Lee comes back in and say hello, just because he hasn't got North Shield's Wi-Fi. But
no, I've been in the background for a couple of minutes just listening.
But in all seriousness, Callum, every day this makes this case longer is harming the football club even more, because Steve Bruce can't get the best out of these players because he wanted to try and get more in the summer, which caused friction between him and the board. The fans aren't happy because the team's crap. Let's be brutally honest. It's not the best. And we still don't have a final decision. You know, the Premier League are twisting it that we didn't actually reject it. It doesn't look good for Newcastle United until there's that big decision, Callum.
It's not good for us in Newcastle United. It's like my granddad said, every time we're playing against each week we play the team, we have the same tactic, 5 at the back. Why is it always be 5 at the back every week? Why did he just change it like 4-4-2? That's what I don't understand. Why did just change? Like I said, change the tactic to make it 4-4-2 or 4-3-3 instead of 5 at the back all the time. That's where it annoys me a lot. That's why we keep losing, or we keep drawing. We lose some players. You name it.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting what you're saying there, Colin. Lee, I just have to ask you. I want to ask you a quick question, and I'll let you go back to being presenter after me little 5 minutes. Being Sports, they've got a lot to answer, haven't they, from what's been said this afternoon?
Oh, I'm sure we'll see Richard Keys on his next program. It'll be all out Twitter, because they'll definitely put it out on Twitter for us to have bites in it and likes in it and what have you. I think, they've got a lot to answer for. I mean, how much was it? Was it 350 million?
Roughly.
And that's, if you compare that to Britain, obviously overseas pay less, but that's peanuts compared to what BT and Sky pay. I know 350 million sounds a lot, but for overseas rights it is. BN Sports is massive because of the show, obviously, across Asia, North Africa, everything. And then you look across the States as well. The Premier League are getting tons of money. The States is massive in terms of Premier League now. It's growing every year, and a lot of people are adopting Premier League clubs. So yeah, they do have a lot to answer for, and I think we will have a response back from probably that show, the Keys and Gray show, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it is, but something doesn't smell right. You know, everything just kind of, if you put everything together in regards to being and when
the Qatari aren't there?
Yeah, I know they are. I get that. I get that the Qataris and the Saudi Arabians don't really get on very well.
Look how they won the World Cup. That was corrupt.
Oh, of course it was. But I just think when you look back at it now, and I think everybody kind of had this little fear in the back of their mind, but being Sports kicking out a fuss on one of their flagship shows during the pandemic, which created a lot of noise. But by the way, we're just doing another deal with the Premier League. Premier League, we're not going to pay that amount of money because these are coming in who have been ripping us off for 2 years and you've barely done anything about it. I just think it's something that doesn't smell right. But look, I think it's been one of those days where I don't know, mate. I don't know if you're the same as me. I feel like it's just a lot more questions.
I'm distracted because I've got a moths came in through the window. So the cats are going crackers in front of us. You should see. I spin the camera and they got wild. Sorry, what did you say?
I'm just saying, like, there's a lot more questions today than there has been answers.
Yeah, we've got
we've found out quite a lot.
There's
I've only got,
nobody.
like 5 or 6 questions to ask almost.
There's nobody like kicking off big time, if that makes sense, because there has been a lot more questions put to both parties. Obviously, we didn't find out the Premier League because a lot of it's confidential, but the man in the middle has to ask those questions. That's his job. He's the judge. So would have been questions asked to both parties, and some of them, and probably a small portion, probably a fraction that has been hidden, but Newcastle United can't legally probably disclose, but everything else they want to play in the opening. Callum, I'll come to you on this. Is it happening in January?
It would be hard to answer, so I got no answer. Who knows?
Come on, I want an answer. You're live to the world.
I really want to have it to happen. So if it so I say yes, it could happen. But
nice one. Nice one.
We need a take off. I really need to get over done with. But I've got a question. But what about Sheffield United? They'll go Saudis. So what's the problem there? They got so they what happened to us? They got so.
But the EFL decided that they could be bought in the AFL at any Tom, Dick, and Harry.
And they're nowhere near as I know the part of the Saudis and that they're on like a fucking 10th cousin or whatever he is, but he's nowhere near as rich as what the Mohammed bin Salman is. He's like, I think I seen the rich list go out on when was it on our socials the other day, and he's tiny compared to 5 billion whatever is the Salman's worth.
He's like a Johnny Greenwood to a Sam Muller. Sam Muller with all these houses, these east wings and west wings.
Yeah,
that's what the difference is.
He's like, his garden's like 50 acres.
If it does happen, if it take like step, I would just have a lovely last bottle of my Newcastle brand new downstairs. What I say, # Newcastle brand new.
You'll have to come up. You'll have to get your tit suit and dance in front of the statue like Sam Mullen has, Scanny, if the takeover goes through.
Oh, we should come. When it comes next year, see my granddad. Hopefully, all gets out. Hopefully, she use.
The takeover comes first. Forget about your granddad.
Yeah. It's fine. Don't worry.
Andrew, what's your stance on it? Do you think it'll happen on January?
I'm pessimistic, but I really do hope it does. Yes, I'm going to say yes, simply because if it doesn't, then I don't want to be the one that says it wouldn't happen. So I really do hope it does, but I think you've just got to wonder why all these delays keep going on. And I'm hoping today the fact that the only pauses in the court case were because of the Premier League. DeMarco can work that in our favour and say, look, we've said before this, we wanted this to be public. What's your problem?
He didn't speak much, Johnny, the day DeMarco, because he's representing NUFC, and it's obviously today was more about the St James Holden trying to get Compo. So Nick DeMarco didn't speak too much. Did that surprise you, Johnny?
A little bit, but I've got a feeling he might say a lot on arbitration day.
Oh yes,
But the thing is, though, it would just be typical Newcastle that is the first court case he loses will be with us, wouldn't it? Like the thing is, though, if Nick DeMarco is taking this on, he must think that Newcastle should win this case. That's how I'm looking at it. Now, I'm no legal expert, but surely, if you're so confident that you can put not your reputation on the line, because it doesn't make a massive difference, but that you know the laws inside and out, that Newcastle got a very strong case, he wouldn't have represented them, would he? So, especially against a juggernaut like the Premier League, I think the Premier League are shit scared. I think the Premier League.
Knowing the wages that Ashley's paying him, he's not going to be the highest paid one in the room, is he?
Of course he's not. But I just have a feeling he might spend a bit more money on his legal team to get this over the line than he would on a player. If you had the choice of getting Nick DeMarco in, or bloody who else? Who did we try and get on deadline day? Bloody what was that lad? Hamza Chowdhury. So there you go. He was more concerned about making sure Nick DeMarco was probably on his side than Hamza Chowdhury was. But no, I'm not. I thought sometimes you don't have to say a lot to make your point. So let's just see what happens in January. Look, I'm still on the fence of no. I don't think this will happen.
You've got to get off that fence, John. You've been on that fence for years.
I've been on that fence for years, but I'm still not confident. I'm still not confident of this takeover going through. I'm a bit more pleasant about what I've heard today, but I'm still on the fence, and I don't think it's going to happen because I just felt it would. If it was going to happen, it would have happened 18 months ago. Look, if Newcastle do get it over the line, Ashley probably deserves a little bit of credit because he's done all he can to get the takeover done, and if it does go through, then fair play to him. But he's almost neglected the club in the last 6 to 9 months because he hasn't invested as much as he should have done. And you need to invest the minimum, especially with a club like Newcastle that are flirting with relegation. Like we flirted with relegation so much last season. It needed a bit of investment, not just bringing back Joe Willock. It needed a bit of TLC, and we didn't even get the T. So, see what happens. You've
also got to take into account with Newcastle fans, so we're always going to expect that as we get to the final line, it's going to go tits up, isn't it? So,
what a day, eh?
Yeah. No, I'm not going to say it. I nearly did it there, and nearly went, I'm not going to say it. Final predictions before I let Callum and Andrew go. We've got Joe as our final guest, who's always good spirits, Johnny. If you haven't met Joe, you'll enjoy this. Callum, score prediction on Saturday. What are you going with? Earth to Callum, do you read me?
Yeah. Yes, I still hear you.
I'll just shout, hello!
I said one.
Should have got there by now.
Yeah.
What's the score prediction going to be?
1-1.
Oh, not again. Not again. The amount of times me and Johnny been outside Molyneux doing 1-1 games, man. So, yeah. All right. Andrew, what are you going with?
2-1 Wolves.
Oh, God. Mr. Negativity. Johnny, I'll ask yours in a second. But, lads, thank you very much for popping on.
All the best, lads.
See you soon.
Cheers, Callum.
Right, we're going to bring in Joe. Joe, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah. Been quite a while since I was last on.
It's been a few months, hasn't it? The last time you were on, you were doing Steve Bruce impressions and everything. It was great.
Oh, God, yeah. How could I forget that after Arsenal?
Was it after the Arsenal game? Was it? I think you had I think you had Carl and Stitches and everybody. You were doing Bruce impressions. Have you got any Bruce impressions for the night?
Well, I mean, I would love to see, what if we get the takeover, what he would have to say. Well, I think I'm going to spend another 150 million on Ahmed El Mohammadi. But that's probably what he'd do. But oh well. So yeah, it's interesting to see what's happening with the takeover now. As you guys have said before, I'm still semi-expecting it to it go tits up at the last minute. However, also really wouldn't surprise us if it just gets pushed back again.
Do you think so? Because the Premier League, I know, again, take it lightly, but the Premier League said today that they want it resolved. That's why they want the CAT case just thrown out, because it will be resolved in January.
But they've said that before, though, haven't they? That they wanted like a speedy resolution.
It's how many times can you adjourn a court? Because the Premier League, the court case, when was it, Johnny? Was it a couple of months back?
Summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was late summer. I think it was just before the first game, wasn't it? Or just after, it was just around the first game. They delayed it and said, right, you delayed it for evidence. So it'll be the Premier League for evidence. Surely it'll be the Premier League side. And then it's given them, you're talking September, October, November, got January in the vein, December, January. That's 5 months to find evidence. They cannot delay it again if they haven't found the evidence, surely.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, it's the thing is, though, it's also a case of, like, as you say, if they can't delay it, like, I really think we just need an answer at this point, like whether or not it's going to happen. Because at this point, it's it's been well over a year. I mean, it was pretty much the same thing when you might remember when oh God, I forget his name, but he was supposedly the cousin of Sheikh Mansour. But yeah, it's. Like I remember watching Black and White show every week. Is it going to happen this week?
What was it called? Ben Zayed. Christ.
Ben
I
Zayed, yeah.
you know what it is? I doubted that. I think I was the only few in the channel that kept doubting it because it was all weird when it was all third party based, leaking
Yeah,
into it.
yeah.
Like, why isn't it coming from the official source? It was weird as out. Johnny, I'll come to you with this. Whether the takeover goes through or not, do we need closure?
Oh, mate. Every journalist needs closure. Every fan needs closure. Every ITK account needs closure. Look, I honestly think that one way or another we will find out in January, and by God, this club needs it. Ultimately, the club needs this owner to go. I'm trying to think of the right way to put it.
We do. We need
all I want is Newcastle to be put in a safe pair of hands. In a safe pair of hands who want to try and just do a little bit better each year. It's not too much to ask. I don't want to think that Newcastle are going to finish 16th, 17th, or 18th this year. Because at the minute, when you look at the Premier League and you look at Newcastle at the minute, I was struggling to think of 3 worst teams, which is frightening, really.
Yeah, and that is usually
tough.
really the only reason that we stay up is because there's just 3 worst teams, you know? Like, I know you can credit, the strong end to last season, but, like, I'm sorry, but, like, 8 games doesn't excuse being shit in the other 30, you know?
He's not going to get rid of Bruce in it unless Bruce, absolutely, if Bruce doesn't win on Saturday, right? Say we get beat off Wolves, right? There's still a chance we could still be still be above the bottom 3. If Leeds, Burnley, and Burnley and Norwich play each other, but say Burnley and Norwich draw at Turf Moor and Newcastle don't get battered, Newcastle could still be out of the bottom 3 if Leeds get beat as well, which is just weird. Yeah. And it'll look like Steve Bruce has done all right, but 7 games in, Newcastle might not have won a single game. And then you look at the next 4 after that: Spurs, Palace, Chelsea, and Brighton. I'm sorry, but that's not the best run of games you want after another international.
No, I mean, like, a lot of my mates are Brighton fans, and like, honestly, like, there's such a big feel good factor around that club, and it's just like, well, really, that more than anything, I mean, takeover or no takeover, I just don't want, like, this to continue, because I mean, like, amongst the fan base and like the way that obviously we're portrayed in the media through, arseholes like Richard Keys. And it's like, really, I would, I think literally, say if we were to get rid of Bruce this year and get someone like Eddie Howe, would probably finish still about 13th or something. But Christ, at least wouldn't be bored.
Yeah, the football would be a lot better.
Bruce should be gone. Not because it would be good for him, it'd be good for the football club. Because we all know he's just there just to be the face of the club, essentially. Because,
taking over.
Yeah, it's just taking over. Like, we all know that, yes, he picks the team, but that's literally pretty much all he does. And it's a sad thing because I don't think he's a bad bloke. I think he's a nice bloke. But you need something more than just a nice bloke to be a manager of a football club, especially in the Premier League nowadays.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even get it. I'm just trying to think teams. Crystal Palace wouldn't even appoint a nice bloke as a manager. They want something a bit behind them. Newcastle just need a boost. They need one massive boost. And, any takeover will do, because as soon as that takeover happens, Bruce will not be head coach or manager, whatever his title is. And someone will come in, and it'll be a big transition for this football club. And I still feel that, what do we have, September, nearly October 2021? I still don't think we're a million miles away from a takeover. It does feel such a long time since, me and you were standing outside St. James's Park in 2017 talking about takeovers, or 2017. Rafa was manager. We were talking about
when Amanda Staveley first bid, and then Peter Kenyon came with that. And
remember the Nova Group, the fake Nova Group.
Oh yeah.
Amanda Staley for me is a funny one though, because I was so against that TalkSport interview. She lost a lot of respect from me for that. You're literally asking for trouble.
Yeah, you're going to be busted on
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Come on. You
Yeah.
just wouldn't get interviewed by them if you were so sensible. And I heard you just talking before. I think it was with Jay in Atlanta, and I think it was when you said, "Well, why didn't they do more protests, or why was she not in London?" A, it would have been a conflict of interest. B, would have got much more people behind her. And if she says something out of turn, or she says something that's not right, then it would have led the fans up the garden path. I just don't think that. I think if she comes in and she tries to change everything quickly, I think she'll get bitten, and I think the fans will be like, "We're not too sure because we've had Ashley for so long." She just needs to just stay quiet. She's so confident this takeover will be done. But who knows? Who knows, eh?
Joe, I want to ask you a question, right? If
Yep.
there's one Premier League team that you look at and think, Johnny talked about it before, and I think I know what you're going to say. If there's one Premier League team and think, do you know what? I wouldn't mind being that team. Even if it's not a billionaire, we had a take.
Yeah.
It's John Smith down the road, takes over the club. Who's the team you look at and think, I'd like to be that team?
Well, probably someone like Leicester or even Brighton
Exactly.
nowadays. Yeah.
Exactly. Because if you look at Leicester, I know it's horrible what happened to their owners, but they don't have loads and loads and loads of money.
No, they just spend it well.
Spend it well. Look at their training ground now. It's absolutely world class. They've bought well. The scouting system's incredible. They've just unearthed every single year. There's 2 or 3 players every year from that side. I know players move on, like Maguire and what have you, but every year you look at that and you look at the stadium. It's well built. I know you probably expand it, but that's the model where Newcastle United should be looking at. Think we want to be Leicester City.
Yeah, well, the thing is though as well, like you do have a question, like as well, like that's the thing with being a Newcastle fan is that we either have to always be prepared for the best or the worst case scenario. Like obviously, say if we get the takeover, then we can, we can start to show a bit of ambition. Like if it happens early enough in January, maybe sign enough players to stay in the league and then start trying, push for top 10 or whatever. But like, it's at this point, it's just, well, what are we like there with Newcastle and the Ashley? There is no long-term plan, and something that you touched on earlier with spending money on DeMarco as we're legal team, but it's like, well, if we've spent money there, it's I'm looking at the squad as well, and it's sorry to have to come back to Bruce, but like we're looking at a lot of players who've just gone backwards, and the fact is as well, we've still got a core of the team who were promoted.
Yeah,
and that was 5 years ago. So
it's quite rare nowadays because footballers move every couple of years, and there's not many. You look at our squad; half that squad is still a championship side.
Yeah, so obviously with Newcastle, there's no long-term plan. So, like, why isn't Ashley, like, say, if we didn't get the takeover, why isn't, like, I know Ashley is trying to sell, but surely he does have to try and protect his asset.
Yeah, I would agree on that as well. Joe, before I let you go, because Johnny's going to tell us what's coming up, what do you think for this weekend?
Probably 1-1. Another one.
There's quite a few of us down there. I hope not. Joe, absolutely wonderful to see you. Hopefully get you on again.
Yeah.
So you're right.
Yeah. I'll see you Brighton away.
Oh yeah, that'll be a tough one to get to, but I'm trying to get us Happy New Year. But get you on video.
Take care, lads.
Thank you very much, Joe.
Nice to speak to you.
Thanks, Joe. That is it for all the guests. Thank you very much for everybody for coming on. Didn't expect it. We always do this. I planned for an hour and we're an hour and a half in. What's coming up, Johnny? You've got something to tell us. What's on tomorrow?
Oh, it's a huge Greenwood and Mulliner show tomorrow night. Do not want to miss this. Mark Quattenberg is on the Greenwood and Mulliner show. We recorded it this morning. He's got an autobiography out on September the 30th, which is tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah.
Whistleblower. Me and Sam, very, very lucky, very, very fortunate to have already read. Sam's read the whole book, and I've pretty much read the majority of the book.
Get the books. You jumped in. Beers as well.
Yeah, books and beers. the Mulliner way. That's a title for his autobiography, isn't it? No, it's an explosive one. It really, really is. I thoroughly recommend it. We talk VAR, refereeing, Newcastle United in terms of the players that he's had to deal with over the years, and there's some really good talking points. And it'll be the first face-to-face interview that Mark Clattenburg's done while he's booked out. He's done a lot of stuff in the papers with Craig Cope in particular, who's done the book for him, who's written the book for him, rather, I should say. But this will be the first face-to-face interview that will be about his autobiography, and it's one not to be missed. Some big, big questions, which he does answer very well. So that'll be tomorrow night. Is it actually? I don't even know what time it is for tomorrow. Is it?
I think I'll speak to Sam. Yeah, we'll put it out probably evening, and then Friday we've got Carlos is back. Hope his bowels are all right because he's cut his bowels. You've probably seen that in this morning's video again. You need to get some Manscaped. Have a look at that in the description. But yeah, we've got a preview with Carlos, obviously down his neck of the woods. And obviously on Saturday, we've got the drive down preview, which will probably be me. And then we've got a match reaction. We've got a match vlog. We've got the last word from the ground. And we've got Brandon. I think Steve is on the watch along. We're in to get all that sorted. That could be go one way. That might be Dynamite TV for the wrong reasons. But we've got loads coming up at NFTV Extra. You have me at Newcastle Castle out tomorrow as well. I'm going to put that out so you'll see me wondering why we're called Newcastle. But if you want to see that, it's on Extra anyways. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll leave it on that. Best Supporters YouTube channel and great podcast. There we go. That's a wonderful way to end that. Thank you very much, Andrew, for that. Good night, everyone.